What do you think? Where do you get your moral guides? Where does it come from? Especially if you're non-Christian. Where do you think that comes from? What inside you tells you what is right and what is wrong?
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We got a full squad together finally, which is really nice to see. This is episode 73. And I do not have a topic for today.
Oh my
I'm looking at Luke's notes right now. They're pretty extensive.
It's a blank page. The words
It literally just says
ep.73.
I honestly like some of the podcasts the most that we don't have anything, though, because I feel like it's just raw and we can go anywhere we want.
Yeah.
So,
I'm all about a raw podcast.
anyone have anything interesting they want to
Let me
have happen
start
to
off
them?
with this. Mom got on me for getting on you last podcast.
Mm.
She was like, you should be nicer to your brother.
Do you want to ask for forgiveness or something, or what's going
No,
on?
but I'm going to decide to compliment you on your outfit. That is, somewhat a basic outfit, but it works. Now, the
Appreciate that,
hair
bro.
and the face is still something you're going to have to work on. Please continue to shave. It's really not that hard. And just figure out something that works for your head.
Jonah, this is a step in the right direction.
We're proud of you, bro.
Take it further. And ask for
Uh,
forgiveness at some point.
At least he doesn't look like a total homeless bum. If you see him from behind and maybe with a hat on, you'll think he's a somewhat mentally.
Speaking of outward
person.
appearance, and you were talking about
Yeah.
outward and inward. I
So,
don't know, what would
yeah,
you call it? A problem or a revelation?
I don't know.
All right, bro, this is actually nasty.
An outward, inward living situation, I guess.
Dive into that more. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
So someone shared a reading plan with Kyle just now, and
Our boy Dan Dangler, shout out.
yeah.
Love
What
you,
was it
Dan.
about again? Could you read it, please?
Yeah, I'll pull up Dan's comment. Dan was commenting. Dan and I and a couple other people who
Or in the parenting thing?
never do it.
Oh, never mind.
No, it's all young life leaders. We're doing a Bible in 1 year plan by Nikki Gumbel.
Mm.
So right now we're reading through Proverbs and Psalms, Mark and Leviticus.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, Dan's comment this morning was this. I said, Leviticus, what a book. On a more serious, that was sarcasm, by the way, if you don't know Dan. On a more serious side, I do know that I can be concerned with how people see me or how I think people see me. That puts me at a place where I am living from the outside rather than the inside. That place also puts me at a place where I am looking at others as I see them with worldly standards rather than as a child of God. All that leads to confusion, judgment, lack of compassion, and empathy. Lord, help me to live with you and for you. Help me to love from the inside out.
Yeah. So when you read that earlier, I thought about, well, it brought me back to something I was thinking about in the car on the way here. And that was how, the way I've been seeing people, like especially strangers, since a lot of the people we see we're probably never going to interact with again. I believe that I have this chance to just I don't know, make fun of them in my head or judge them silently just because I'm never going to see them again. But that's not the way God intended, obviously. And yeah, judging people with human standards. What was the way I put it? I think the way I would put it is that I've been trying so hard to be like Jesus, and it's actually going pretty well. But I'm kind of taking it far in the sense that I'm almost trying to be God, but I'm not purposefully trying to, because I think I have the right to judge others. Sorry, I'm praying right now because I'm trying to remember what I was actually going to say.
Hey, Aiden, if you want to be more like Jesus, he had long hair. Can you grow it out again, please?
It's not necessarily true.
Whoa.
Prove it.
I know what you're
Yeah, were
saying,
you
though.
there?
It's like when you act like Jesus, or when you live out that way, it's easy to become self-righteous because
Yeah,
you look at everyone and
exactly.
start judging them from that standard of I live this way, I'm doing the right thing. Why aren't you doing that?
Yeah, I've been feeling so good about myself that I actually think I'm better than other people.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, what would you say to that, Kyle? We are in a different league than other people, but we're also in the same boat in a sense. I don't know.
Well,
We should act like we're in a lower league,
no,
We're here to serve.
right?
not necessarily. It should. like when you look at there, yeah, like your mind should compartmentalize people into like believers and non-believers and how you perceive their actions, because we aren't called to hold non-believers to the same standards. Like that, the Bible's very clear that, it's like we were just talking about. If you can't hold somebody to a standard that they don't believe exists or they don't know exists.
Yeah, and also in Matthew 8, Jesus says that like Gentiles from the east and the west will like feast in the kingdom of heaven, but like some Israelites won't. And so it has like, you might be following the law, like their law at the time was religious law. You might be following the laws, but you're not placing your faith. So you might be like an actual descendant of Abraham, but spiritually you're not.
So it's not what saves you, is following the law. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me bring this back to my a good analogy of mine.
Let me hear your analogy. This is about the wolves and the sheep.
No, that's Aiden's, bro. That's a sheepdog. And Jesus is a Tide Pod. I'm gonna start with that.
Okay.
That sounds like blasphemy, but
Like
continue.
you're gonna eat the Tide Pod?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, look at everyone as like a shirt, right? Everyone has a shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they sin, they get a little speckle on it.
A little sweat on there.
Oh, we've
little
talked
blood.
about this before.
Yeah, we have. That's why I said I'm bringing it back to my good analogy.
But I don't remember.
I don't even know if
being
it's
a
new
Tide
or
Pod.
whatever. I don't know.
We,
I don't know. I
I
just thought
don't.
it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, finish the
Look.
analogy.
Everyone has a white shirt, and a sin is a stain.
Mm.
Every sin committed is a stain, and then you go to Jesus, you get that Tide Pod, boom.
But look, no matter
But it
no,
should
no
be
matter
bleach,
how little you sin, if I got like one little stain, and you got like
brown.
fuck yeah, if you're like
what were we gonna say?
dragged through
Whoa,
the
whoa,
mud,
whoa, whoa! What were we gonna say?
if you got fudge on your shirt,
Oh, right.
and you're like dragged through the mud or whatever, we both still need to be washed.
Yeah.
True.
Facts.
But the people who don't know, like, if they don't know that the Tide Pod exists, they're not going to look down at their shirt and be like, my shirt is dirty. They're just going to be like, everybody's shirt is like my shirt.
Yeah.
And so then you can't walk up to them and be like, yo, you got a dirty shirt. And then they're like,
So
what do you mean? No, this is just a normal shirt.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, do you see my shirt? And they're like, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever.
yeah.
So you have to like level a playing field. I always talk about it as like with other Christians, they have the same basic, like the same standards that we judge ourselves by. So you can call out another Christian and be like, yo, stop like going to the strip club. Like, it's not good for you. And he'll be like, yeah, you're right.
It was funny the first time, man.
Yeah. But if you go to a non-Christian and you're like I saw a podcast the other day where it was like these women and they're like, oh yeah, we're cool if like our husbands go to strip clubs. I'm like, what? But then I'm like, they don't have that same understanding. So to them, it's okay. It's normal. But until they've been enlightened by the truth of Jesus and the gospel, we can't really I can't be like, well, what about like adultery and like just start right there and be like, what are you talking? Like that doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
It's like telling a kindergartner like, hey, why don't you know advanced algebra? And you're like, I don't even know what algebra is.
Why don't you know how to pay your taxes, buddy?
Yeah. And then like, it's until they learn that truth, like that truth still exists, but they don't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think to a certain sense, like those women probably would feel bad if their husbands cheated on them.
But society's
But
told them not
they're
to.
brainwashed to a point where like they think it's acceptable, which I guess is what Satan's goal is, anyways,
Absolutely.
to corrupt.
I think deep down in their hearts, if their husbands go, even when they said that, they
Yeah.
could like feel like, I actually don't want my husband. Like,
Well, they probably just want to be the cool wife, you know,
Yeah.
like the chill wife.
I think they were sitting there thinking like,
Actually, I wouldn't really like that.
if your wife was like, go for it,
Yeah.
then you're like, what are you doing when
Do
I'm
you
at the
even
strip
love
club?
me?
Yeah, right.
Are you cheating on me, and you just want me to like do something, and then when I bring it up, you can be like, "Well, you go to strip club."
Yeah, that's totally true. Like
That's-
it totally
yeah,
brings
that's
in this
true.
level of like, okay, now there's this distrust. Also, like my wife's my best friend, so like I tell her everything. how would I come over to the strip club and be like, she'd be like, how was it? I'm like, oh, there's like this girl dancing up. I'm like, what? Like, you can't just be like, that's how my night went.
How'd yours go?
Anyway, that's a different point.
I have to make this podcast explicit, so thank you guys.
You can just cut that out.
But that's kind of what the C.S. Lewis was talking about in the last few chapters, is this morality that we all seem to have, but that is so corrupted these days, and that people try to make excuses to not follow in a way.
Well, this was in like the 40s, right?
Yeah, so back then, I think when you wrote it, a lot more people were actually following that morality.
Well, I still think it's super valid.
No, it's just super valid, but I feel like it's more distorted now than it was before.
Well, I don't think nobody ever, like, if you go up to anybody, they have this sense of morality, of right and wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like, regardless, like it's your most lib friend who's like, it's right for a woman to be able to have an abortion.
Them more those than others, it's like all they would do is like try to figure out what's right and wrong and like tell people what's right and wrong.
Yeah, so like their belief is like, this is right. Why? Because they have a moral compass inside them telling them, not that abortion is right, but that like a woman being able to choose is right, which is valid. But then society says, hey, a woman's right to choose is based off of being able to kill a baby. So then it's like, well, then I'm siding with the woman's right to choose. And so that's where we have this conflict, is like what my moral compass is telling me, what your moral compass is telling you. I think if you really stripped it all down, it would all be the same. But just like you said, because of our society, it's distorted it to where now you have to pick one side, and neither side is always...
There's no right answer.
Yeah, correct. It's just the one that you feel like lines up.
My mom made me watch a video. It was like an hour-long sermon. And it was this, I forget what his name is. I don't know.
Is it a young dude?
Huh?
Young guy?
No.
Okay.
It was like an Australian guy. He's pretty old. What's his name? Is it Greg Laurie? I'm not sure.
Greg Laurie's not Australian.
Yeah, okay.
But he is
old.
Old.
I have no idea what.
He's like a California dude.
Yeah. Anyway, I have no idea who it was. But he was talking about, like, the reason that so many Gen Zs and just especially young people in general are walking away from the church is because after, like, the Bible and everything was taken out of school, they just didn't know about, like the Bible at all. So, like, if you're telling them, like, they're, like, sinning or something like that, they don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
And then, especially in, like, Sunday school as well, too, he made a point where he was like, all right, kids, come on, like, let's all huddle around and listen to this, like, Bible story. And they would say, like, story in a way as in Ken Ham. That's who it is. Thanks, Luke.
Oh, was that him?
Yeah.
Ken Ham's a G.
Yeah. Anyway, he was like saying is like all these kids coming in to listen to these Bible stories. When we hear story nowadays, we think fairy tale. So they're like thinking of all this stuff as like it's almost as they're like listening to maybe like Harry Potter or something. It's like, oh, that's a pretty cool story, but I might as well go fly on a broom or something like that. I don't even know. But
that's valid.
So yeah, when all these like old people are trying to teach their children about how like they're sinning and stuff, like they don't even know what that is.
Well, dude,
it's just a foreign concept to them.
And I have this struggle with Knightley now because you can pull up like we've had to kind of teach him that any thought he has, he thinks we can just pull up a picture of it on our phone. Like we could be talking about like just an imaginary, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was like this excavator that had like these tracks and like just kind of just like messing around. Like
you use Midjourney.
Yeah, use an AI photo generator. Just
stop.
Oh, okay, never mind.
And so then he's like, can you show me a picture? And I'm like, oh, well, it's not real. So I've also had this conversation with him where I was driving down because they see all this stuff on screens now. And I've had to tell him like Leo the tractor is not real. Like it's a cartoon. He's not real. There's a few other things like on there that are not real. They're just made up. So I was driving down the street one day, or driving down the highway, and he looks over at a dude driving a truck, and he's like, "Is that guy real?" And I was like, "Gah!" And like that is the challenge we have. So like when you look at like what people perceive as true there's so much junk on our that you have access to at the tap of your fingertips. Like, it's hard to distinguish what is real.
Have you already spoiled Santa and the Easter Bunny for him?
Oh, yeah.
And how they're real.
I already told him that Santa's
that
not
they're
real.
You mean that you've told him that they're real?
No, I broke his little heart. Actually, he never cared.
And you told him that the Easter Bunny lays eggs that you have to go find?
I don't think he even knows about the Easter Bunny.
Yeah, because it's pagan. When I was little, I watched Thomas the Tank Engine, and
I'm so disturbed on how the name is. It's Thomas the Train, and I could have sworn it was Thomas the Train.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Forever.
It's always been Thomas the Train.
No, it's Thomas the Tank Engine.
And then I looked it up,
Maybe.
and it is actually Thomas the Tank Engine.
No,
it's
they're
the most
gaslighting
upsetting
you.
thing
They're
I've ever
gaslighting
seen.
you.
You're
not-
gaslighting me,
Guys.
Kyle. You are gaslighting me. It's Thomas the Tank Engine, and I don't want it to be.
It's Thomas the Tank Engine. There's no such thing as mass
Look up
gaslighting.
Thomas the Train.
Oh, there is.
It's the something effect. Anyways,
the
I watched
Nelson
Thomas
Mandela
the Tank
effect.
Engine, and I watched the Michael Bay Transformers, and I saw at our local train station they literally had a life-size Thomas the Tank Engine that you could go on rides
Been
with.
on it.
Yeah,
Pretty sick.
and so
It's actually called Thomas and Friends now.
it's different every time. Every
No.
I saw a 2013 Chevrolet Camaro with like a yellow one with the black stripes, I'm like, it's Bumblebee.
Mm-hmm.
And so that idea that like the stuff that wasn't real, like I always thought it was real. I don't know how that's evolved into my belief system nowadays, but
Jacks you up.
it was not at all like nightly, because it's like all of my like beliefs in things that weren't real were confirmed to be real. And so
So did you go up to like
Maybe
ask the driver of Bumblebee and be like, "Yo, can you swap him over to Transformer mode real quick?"
can you is he nervous? Does he go in robot mode?
Yeah. My life experience with Nightly is like the TikTok, like, is it real or is it cake? And I'm like, this one's cake.
I just showed that
This
to my
one's real.
parents the other
I don't
day.
know what you're talking about.
It was like a whole Thanksgiving feast made of cake, and they're like,
Wow, like someone should do that at a birthday party.
I'm like, yeah, that'd be funny.
It's like these dudes, like, I don't know if it's dudes, but these people make really realistic looking cakes.
oh, like
That
a
look like-
chicken that's a cake or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
is it real or is it cake?
And
A
they're,
roll of
put 'em
paper
next to each
towels,
other, and they're
an
like,
onion.
"What is this one?" And they'll like stamp it, and then like, the cake goes everywhere. No, usually they cut it in half.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that's cake. Wow.
Anyway, so back to the moral standards. It's a lot harder nowadays to be able to distinguish what is true and what is false, because
It's like a compass. Like there's the one true north compass, and then there's a compass that's like runs off magnets, and there's so many magnets around it, just like
Yeah.
spin it around.
but I love the arguments that C.S. Lewis makes in the opening chapters of Mere Christianity. Because it's so true. I've actually had this conversation with a Jewish friend of mine who she's like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm good enough to make it into heaven. And I was like, what are you basing that off of? And this is what we're basing it off of, is like, I feel like I'm following my internal moral compass to like the best I can. But just, and obviously like she believed in God. But so for somebody who doesn't, like the acknowledgement that that is even in us shows the reality of the Holy Spirit, really.
Mhm.
You know, I have a
Like,
question.
that's, I
I
think,
don't
the
know if
argument
this is
he's
actually a
making.
really stupid question or off topic or whatever, but since you just brought up Jewish people and we're reading Leviticus and all these sacrifices and junk,
Mm-hmm.
how do they now think they get to heaven? Because they don't. I don't see them walking up to the synagogue with like, you know,
A sheep.
for every sin they need a blemishless cow. I'm like, okay, that was my other question. In Leviticus, it's like, all right, there's like what 600,000 like fit men to fight. That means there's probably like women and children. That's probably like 2 million people. Where are y'all getting all these blemishless animals from?
All right. Let's back it
farm,
up.
bro.
Let's back it up. First of all, to answer that question, they all raise livestock, and it also says if you're not like wealthy enough to have
Yeah,
those,
then you need to buy birds.
then you should have 2 birds. And it's like, dude, that's cake. There's like,
Then why doesn't everyone just bring birds?
and well, they were government
'Cause that's
drones
a
then
sin.
too, so like
Well, that
they
could
could
be
just
like-
find them anywhere. Just order them off Amazon.
Well,
Back in Israel.
if you're really rich, be like, I don't want to, like, this is actually a really cool cow. I'm trying to keep this fella to eat. So I'm going to be too poor and I'm going to go buy doves.
Thank God
God
strikes you dead,
knows.
bro.
God knows, bro. That's literally like when you're playing ping pong and you're like, "Who did it hit the table?" And they're like, "I don't know, reserve." God knows. But so yeah, God made a provision for that, for the blemish things, and I also think it was households. Like if my wife sinned, I'm pretty sure I had to go and like do the sacrifice. Now I actually asked the same girl. I was like, "Hey, like, why don't you guys do sacrifices? Like, how does that work?"
I don't know. I've never thought of that question before.
And I don't know. I'd love to hear from any Jewish listeners. If you have any Jewish friends, I'd love to hear the answer to this. I think it's kind of different in different areas. She was like, "Oh, we just like take a stone and it's like, this is my sin, and we like cast it into the river." And I was like, "What?"
Where'd that come?
I was like,
into play?
"Wait." I was like,
Where?
and I kind of moved on because I was like, "All right, well, let's talk about what I was talking about before because this is part of the same conversation." But I was like, that doesn't really make sense. I don't know.
There's
Love to
no,
hear.
there's
Love to
no
hear.
other alternative. You have to sacrifice.
Except Jesus.
And the aromas, the aroma of the animals was pleasing to God, and that's why he forgave you. And
Mhm.
rocks don't really smell good, I don't think.
No,
Unless he likes the sound the splash makes.
dude,
They
it's
sound
kind of
cool.
nice.
Throwing rocks into the water, body of water is one of the most satisfying.
Also, I don't see a lot of Jews throwing rocks in water either. So
I think it's like a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah thing.
oh.
I don't
So
know
it's
for
just
sure
once
though.
you turn 13,
I really want a
For the
Jew
rest
on the
of your
life.
podcast, like a hardcore Jew, to ask him these questions because that'd be super interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it too. Like, let's get Ben Shapiro out here.
Folks, I still do sacrifices because I'm a good Jew.
This is backyard. Carcasses.
No, I'd love to know, like, not from a judgment standpoint, but just out of like
yeah, curiosity.
curiosity. Like, how do you reconcile that?
Because they have the wall where they put all their. Is the wall in Jerusalem their sins,
The praying wall.
or is that they're just a prayer?
I have no idea.
Wait,
How is there
when did
still
sacrifices
more
end?
room
Probably when
put-
they were split, like when when they all were scattered. I'm assuming.
Well, no, because then they rebuilt the temple and everything. They probably still had sacrifices then.
I don't know enough about.
Like,
this
I
to
wonder,
give an
was
informed
Jesus?
opinion.
No, they were doing it in Jesus'
Oh
time.
no, for sure.
That's why they like had
Yeah, they had the
tables and stuff.
Sadducees and Pharisees, whatever.
That's why they're selling all those animals in the temple.
Mm-hmm. And what's his bucket went up for his like Zechariah went up to like do his yearly duty,
Mm-hmm.
serve up there.
They got mute.
Yeah.
Got to turn them on mute.
That's
Interesting.
crazy to think about. Oh, I also read like the passage where he's in like throwing crap around the temple. It's so sudden and it's very short.
Jesus, yeah. It's just like he just then
It's just
Jesus
like-
went
then
in and
Jesus
like
went in
overturned the
and
tables,
Overturned tables.
Is
You
there
know,
more
and
gospels
drove
though?
them out, and you're like, wait, what?
Is there more gospels or is that?
I think so. That was probably in Mark recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does dive into, and it might be in.
Because like in the Action Bible, there's like 4 pages of Jesus just like, he's like rage filled in his face. And it's like full comic pages of him just like, just throwing tables. There's money flying everywhere. There's supposed to be just like, didn't he like whip people?
Yeah, he made it. I don't think he whipped people. I think he just like
Had a whip and just
like
like
cracked a whip,
knocked
like
stuff
literally
over.
just cracked a whip on people. I don't think he was. I mean, maybe he was. Dude,
He
he's
seemed
Jesus.
like really mad in the Action Bible.
So I don't know which gospel it is, but I'm pretty sure it does talk about him making a whip, and then going in, and it says he was like indignant, like he was upset, and he goes in, I'm upset, and like throws over tables,
Yeah.
cracks the whip, and is like, get out of here.
Because it's like from like one paragraph where he's like walking or something, and then he like goes in the temple, and it's like a paragraph, and then it's over.
Which is
I was
actually,
like, wow, that is very underwhelming.
it's a super duper. I don't know why I said super duper. I have children.
It's a soupy doopy very.
It's a super interesting thing to think about because Jesus is used as an example all the time when you're talking about like, are you ready for ministry? Jesus, was like 30 years before he started ministry, all that crap, right? But Jesus was near that temple all the time. Like that wasn't the first time he saw those people.
He was in there when he was 12, bro, like preaching.
Yeah, so like, why was it then? Why did he choose then to go in there and raise some hell?
I mean,
You know?
he also waited 30 years to start teaching. And so, like, it wasn't his time.
Nah, he was spitting facts at Pharisees when he was like 12.
I know, but, like, he
Miracles and
wasn't
such.
gathering disciples until he was 30.
Which is appropriate,
Yeah.
right? Like, if a 12-year-old was like,
Yo, what up,
follow me,
grown
they'd
man?
be like, go.
Where's your mom?
Go
Yeah,
gather some sheep.
Yeah.
Bring him to the piece. There's
They'd
like,
probably just
there's
like
a
throw a
demon in this
fish at
child.
him.
Go marry
Like,
someone.
shut up.
Well, that's what happened to Joseph, so we see how that went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that his timing was immaculate, and like when you watch The Chosen,
This is what I'm concerned about. We're referencing the Chosen and the Action Bible more than we're referencing the real
the
Bible.
Action Bible has the word Bible in it. Therefore,
The Action
Bible,
Bible's
Bible.
very
I'm using The
good.
Chosen as
Give
a
me a
source
Bible.
because it's just like a visual aid
for
for
sure.
what the Bible and other texts say. So
That's what my
Fair.
Action Bible is, and that's actually really cool.
yeah.
Did you guys know
And
the
so
Action
what
Bible's
I'm trying
cool?
to say is that like he had like a perfect time for everything. So I'm not sure if we'll ever know like why he chose to get angry then.
And we don't know for sure
To
if it was
get
always like that, right? Like, we don't know for sure they were always selling in that space.
Well,
Oh, I think they were.
Think about
Okay.
it like this: for like however many years it was from Moses to then, they're like, "Hey, these people need animals to sacrifice. Wouldn't it be convenient if I started raising animals and sold them right in front of them, so you don't have to like walk your stupid cow over here and be
And then the
like,
priests are like, nah, that's not, dude, that thing's got a wart right there.
that's not blemishless though. You gotta get that puppy out of here."
In the 1800s in England, they scientists like biologists who were studying the human anatomy needed like fresh human corpses to study.
That's where Frankenstein came from.
Okay. And so what originally people like funeral parlors would just like dig up dead bodies, but those bodies weren't fresh enough. They were kind of starting to decompose and they were gross and stinky. And so eventually they started secretly hiring people to just assassinate random people to get their body. And this is so off topic, but I think it's really interesting. They would just like assassinate people and use their body for research.
Dude,
Lit.
sorry. I just remembered a dream I had because you said that. Because, okay, this is, all right, let's bring it back to the Bible. That was super weird, Aiden.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I love how Aiden's just drawing and then he just randomly
like,
interjects
yo.
with some- Yo, y'all,
People
did
kill
you
people.
know?
Here's a little bite of information for you.
Little tidbit of information. History.
So when I read in like Leviticus and stuff like that, and talking about those ceremonies, like when they had to sacrifice those animals, it's very specific. Like they walk up, they bring up this animal, they all put their hands on its head, and then they cut its throat and kill it right there. And then they literally are like pouring out its blood on the altar, which is like super gruesome. But I had a dream that I did that last night.
Too much Leviticus,
All
dude.
right.
An animal. No joke. I had a dream that I don't know if it was like an elk or a cow or what it was, but like I like put my hand on its head and was like looking at that thing, and I was getting
That's
ready
how
to
they
like
do it in Avatar.
take its meat, and I was just like and just cut that thing's throat, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's great.
did that.
Actually, you know, now that you bring up like the putting their hands on their head thing, there's that dude who uses the Lord's name in vain, and the whole tribe was like, all right, everyone who witnessed it, put your hands on his head, and then we're going to stone this fella. And then they put his hands on his head and they stoned him.
So do you know why? Wait, is that a real story?
It's in the
Okay,
Bible.
so do you know why
What?
they put their hand on his head?
No.
They're passing their sin onto.
Poor
No
guy.
joke. That's it talks about it. That's why they would do that on the animal. So like when you'd present a sacrifice, you'd put your hand on its head to pass your sin onto the animal, and then you kill the animal. That's the sacrifice.
I wonder if the
So
crown
that
of
dude
thorns.
who got stoned, like, hey, you witnessed his sin. Now you're passing his sin onto this.
So,
dude's
like,
head.
are you just passing on the sin that, like, he caused you to witness? Or are you
Yeah, I mean,
passing
I doubt.
all your sins on him?
I don't think some brother was like, sick. I just cheated on my wife. Like,
Hey, right place, right time, boy.
yeah, no, I think it was just like that. But I mean, like the sacrifice wise, like that was the whole thing. Was like we're gonna stone this guy and like take care of like you guys are all guilty by association, but then like he's gonna take care of it. Like he's the
Bro,
sacrifice.
God had no mercy then.
I mean,
those priests, those
He kinda
priests
did.
cut up those animals wrong. Like their first time, they're like, "Wait, what? Did God say do it this way over there?" And he's like, "You did it wrong, dead."
no, the priests that
It's the sons.
it wasn't the
Aaron's
sacrifices
sons?
though. They were like, "Yo, what if we just like also burned some other incense? Like that'd be kind of sick." And then God was like, "Idiots, dead." It was about the burning of like unsacred incense, and I don't know.
Why would they? What?
They're dumb, obviously.
Oh.
Well, maybe they weren't dumb, but they were arrogant.
Or when
They were
the Levites had
dumb.
to go through the entire camp and they just slaughtered
slaughtering
everyone they
people.
saw.
Yeah, that was crazy. But
Dude,
that
the
was
Bible is nutty.
but God gives them a chance, right?
Christian lore.
This is how
crazy.
This is how I treat my children too. Like God's like, yo, stop worshiping like whatever
Tom's the
other
train.
god, and so then they made a proclamation like, hey, if you like are listening to God, get in your tent. And so then like, I don't know how many people died, like 30,000 or something like that. There's a lot, right? Like it was thousands. And then he's like, if these people are still outside their tent, kill them.
Why didn't he
They're
just send his
I-
angel of death like he did in Egypt?
I think it was, again, like if you look at Leviticus, and I don't know for sure, but he's establishing a community of accountability to God. And so then he was demonstrating like, hey, you guys are my hands, but at the same time, like, as my people,
I'm not scared to cut you off.
yeah, but as my people, like, you should be holding each other accountable. Like, this is all something everybody should know. It's the same thing like we see in today's church. Like, I should be holding my brothers and sisters in Christ accountable to like the truth that I know they know.
Yeah.
Like when I call out, like, I won't name names, but like people that I know who do things that they know they shouldn't do. And then they're like, hey, Kyle, should we do these things? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't do those things. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's cool. Like, don't worry about it. Like, God forgives you. Like, I'm like, no, that's not. Like,
At what point
it's
are
clear.
you classified to be able to flip tables, though?
yeah, that's a good question.
Walk into their house.
I could give you guys a breakdown of like the holiness level, because I've made it. But once you, there's a few things you got to check off your list, and once you get that, you can start flipping tables.
Level unlocked.
No, it's again.
See, Aiden, instead of grinding for what was it in Destiny, the title under his name?
Seraph.
Yeah, instead of grinding for Seraph, Kyle grinded for Table Flipper.
Dude, it would be kind of like, it'd be kind of nice if Christianity was set up that way, right? Like for I think at least for guys.
Dude, I'm
Those guys work that
a prestige 3 Christian, bro.
Yeah, right.
That's probably that's how
What are you-
Mormonism I feel like is
you're
kind
a
of set up.
bummy gold.
Yeah,
I can tell you what to do.
yeah. Like, yo,
You're just a level 1 crook. I'm a level 30 Bible master.
I've mastered self-control. I don't lust after anything.
Yeah, bro, my skill tree's maxed out.
I mean,
are
that's
you
what the
gonna do?
Pharisees were, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
that's what the Pharisees wanted
much.
to be.
Remember that guy whose video we dissected, Better Ideas? It was like how to live a miserable life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he made a video. It was like, I made my life a video game. Like, I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming that the way it works, like, because I've heard it before, is that, like, you reward yourself in little amounts for doing things that you don't want to do.
Mm.
And then, like, those rewards, you can count as, like, XP or whatever. And then when you get enough XP experience points, you like level up and you get a bigger reward. So it's like a
I mean, delayed gratification.
For
is great.
people-
that system isn't even too bad.
no, it's not. It's good for people who like are transitioning from video games to the real world, which is sad that
I'm currently in transition.
Dude, there used to be like alcohol, like alcohol addiction.
Gamers
facilities.
Anonymous.
And then it's just like, dude, it's okay. And some dude's crying. He's like, I played Destiny 45 hours yesterday.
You know, I know someone like that. And
Talking for a friend.
yes.
Yeah.
And so it might like
maybe that's honestly like a needed thing.
yeah, exactly. Like it's just a good way to work hard, play hard with extra steps, you know.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, it's just delayed gratification, which is good.
Yeah.
To like reward yourself.
Like
with.
I worked out every day this week. I get 1/2 of an Oreo.
Then there's those people that just like have a crazy cheat meal and like makes no sense.
Yeah.
You just wasted.
I went outside today. 3 more hours on the computer. Yay!
You spent all your rupees on video games.
But yeah, I'm just like, when are you able to justify? I guess righteous anger would be the term to use.
Well,
And I feel like I know Jesus used it. I don't really think. Do we see other people in the Bible use after Jesus like righteous anger? Like,
See, who else got really angry?
Paul. I feel like Paul never got too crazy.
Oh, Paul was actually kind of a chiller.
I mean, before he was slicing people up, but like after
He
the
didn't
fact.
say he was like, I don't know, doing it because he was upset. Joker.
I'm upset.
I'm upset.
I don't know.
Oh my God, you brought up Paul, and I figured out the rest of the Ken Ham message.
Nice.
It's brought it to my
It's
mind.
come full circle.
That's good. You should talk about that if you want to.
So basically, anyway, he was talking about how modern day preachers are, again, just like preaching to a audience that they think or falsely believe already know these kinds of things. Are you concerned, Kyle? Do you hear?
I don't know. I thought I was hearing things.
Okay. Anyway, he's
The
like
Holy Spirit.
like these preachers are preaching to an audience who think they know or they think they should have a certain knowledge already, when in reality these are like Gentiles again. Like when Paul went,
Little
he went
babes.
into their lives and he pointed out examples to them. When he went to Greeks and they had all these like these statues to these gods that they were worshiping, and then they had the thing for the unknown god that they would sacrifice to and everything, he'd be like, that's this guy.
Yo,
That's this guy.
that unknown
this
God
boy.
is the real
I actually
deal.
know him. You want to know something cool? The unknown? I know. And so, yeah, he was like, he like went into their lives and integrated that instead of the preacher being like, yo, you guys already know the basic stuff. You guys suck. And then all these Gen Z kids are like, what? You're queer. You're. That's not what I meant to say. You're
Well,
weird. Yeah, pretty much. You're weird and you're creepy and.
I think what he was saying is
Queer
like
traditionally means weird.
the past generations have been a generation that do have essentially like the laws of the Bible was part of the culture, right? They were like the Bible was still somewhat integrated into a lot of aspects of their lives. They'd still do the Pledge of Allegiance. They'd still pray in school.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now we're in a generation that doesn't have any of those fundamentals. And when we try to preach the gospel, assuming they already know those things, it obviously doesn't work. So we got to transition, like Jonah was saying, to almost like how Paul ministered to people like the Greeks that didn't know anything, essentially, and kind of like, I guess, reset everything, because people are so messed up these days. It's like you can't, like we try to base stuff on morality, and people's morality is so messed up that it like gets harder and harder, I feel like.
Dude.
Queer, strange or odd from a conventional viewpoint, usually unusually different or singular, of a questionable nature or character, suspicious.
Dude, I wonder how these
Shady.
how these words turned into slurs.
Well,
It's like,
it's a,
you
yeah,
know, like
it's
the
a
bundle, the old bundle of sticks.
a faggot.
That
All
one.
right. Back to what we were talking about, because you guys made some awesome points. Because I agree. Like the Bible familiarity has kind of peaked over time, and I think that shows that we're coming back to how we're gonna have to change how we do ministry. I'm reading currently. Well, I'm listening, however you want to call it, to Moby Dick. And Moby Dick was written in the 1800s. If you don't know about Moby Dick, it's about a dude who's hunting, a dude who's on a dude's boat who's hunting this white whale. And like everybody in this book has some sort of biblical foundation. Like they all kind of like know that God is real. And it's like just pulsing throughout everything that he reads. He's just talking about God. I'm like, dude, back in the 1800s, everything was like, we're all Christian, like the Christian world. It was literally like people who were civilized were like taught in a Christian sense.
Yeah. They were taught the religion, at least.
Exactly, the religion. Now, a lot of them, I'm noticing and realizing, like, have no idea.
Yeah.
They just know, like, about the Bible and the Ten Commandments, all that stuff, and the wrath of God. But they don't actually know, like, relationship. So that was, almost 200 years ago. So now we look at like 200 years ago, it was very prevalent, and now we're like rapidly declining this familiarity with the Bible. Like we are going to be, in this stage, and I think it's probably because we're getting closer and closer to the end times. Oh, okay.
Wait, really?
We're in the end times, closer and closer to
What's happening?
the end. So I think we have to change the way we do ministry to like how Paul did it, but bringing it full circle again, because you guys did an incredible job segueing.
So many circles, man.
I think the way that C.S. Lewis is talking about like bringing up the reality that we all have this moral law within us is a super valid way to be able to discuss that with people who have no idea, like that Christianity or the Bible is a thing.
Just the question of what you base that on is so vital.
Yeah.
It's so, because they don't know. Well, they kind of know, but they don't want to know.
Like, how do you know that? And yeah, how do you know that not being racist is correct?
Yeah.
Like, why is that right?
Are you asking us?
No, that's just like a question.
Yeah.
Like, is it because of
How do you
the
think-
world?
How do you think an atheist or just normal kind of lost person would answer?
Would answer that? They'd be like, it's just right. Or you want to know what they would say? They'd say, because all humans deserve like
Opportunities.
equal treatment.
But why?
Why? Yeah, that's
You can
exactly
keep
it.
asking
it's
why.
Not, it's not wrong. It's just why, you know?
Yeah.
And eventually it might boil down to, well, because it helps human evolution. And then it doesn't, because you're just literally,
Why?
yeah.
Why does it matter? Like who?
Kyle, if we were debating and every response I answered with, and you just go why,
I wouldn't do that. I would say,
Okay.
dude, I totally agree with you. Like that's super valid. But why do you think?
Pissed off and I'd walk away.
I wouldn't just say why. I would be like,
Like
"Oh,
a
dude,
5-year-old. Why?
Hey,
Why?
dude, a 3-year-old. Believe me. I would say, like, if you were like, okay, to be, forward the
Conversation.
evolution, okay, like, dude, I think that's super valid. But like, why do you think that diversity is going to help with evolution? That is a why question. That's not just like why. And that's how you can like structure any conversation when you're trying to dig to the root of something. Don't just be like, well, I think that women and men are equal. Why? I agree with you. Like that's totally valid. But like, what are you basing that off of? Why do you think that they're equal? Who made them equal?
Prove to me that you're based.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at my notes here, and there's there ain't much.
There's some
Yeah.
stuff unspoken.
Well, I'd love to hear from, our many viewers. What do you think? Where do you get your moral guides? Where does it come from? Especially if you're non-Christian. Where do you think that comes from? What inside you tells you what is right and what is wrong? And I'd also love to hear from any Jews or friends of Jews out there about sacrifices.
What would happen to those?
Yeah.
Where they at?
And how can I get in on that?
I don't smell the burning incense of animals.
Yeah.
Anything or anything like that.
Well, with that being said, guys, you have a lot to research, a lot to read. Make
When
sure
did they actually
you read
stop
your Bibles?
spreading the
Let me
blood
finish the
lambs
outro.
on, like, using
Comment,
actual
subscribe.
lamb's blood on doorposts?
Send it to your mom, your friends.
That's a good question.
I don't know. Go check out our Instagram, our website. There's some cool merch on there. You guys are curious.
I'm pretty sure my mom's done it before.
See you in the next
It
one.
hasn't stopped yet.
Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is a friend of mine. Once I tried to run and hide, but Jesus came and